Welcome to my show, Paula. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you, Guy. What a lovely surprise for you to ask me to come on. I'm very privileged. I feel very privileged.
Well, you shouldn't be because, I'm privileged that you gave up so much of your time to include all of the information you did in my book. It must have taken you such a great deal of effort to do all of this. Your research is incredible, and I thought it'd be nice for you to share with the people that haven't read my second book exactly what compelled you to
Yeah.
start looking into the history of Australia and the children in particular, how it affected the children. And I thought it'd be
Yeah.
great to get you on so you could tell
Yeah.
us
Thank you.
tell us all about it.
Yeah. No, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Well, it all started, Guy, when you and I had a Facebook little chat. And there was something you said in a post. I can't remember what it was. And I said, oh my gosh, it just triggered something in me. And and I remember I started writing things about the exhibitions and the incubator babies and things that were connected with Australia. And you and I had a really good talk about it. And you said to me, look, I would love you to write a chapter for my second book. And I was honoured. I thought that was lovely. So yeah. So anyway, I sat down and I tell you now, I had so many ideas going through my head, Guy. It was not. I mean, we talked about actually how the convict children of Australia, and I was talking to you about the goldfields and how there were so many children in the goldfields at that time, and we sort of, I sort of wondered what was going on for that. So anyway, I sat down and I thought, okay, where am I going to go with this? And with any of my research, I start with an idea, and I literally and I call it my inner guidance, my intuition, whatever that is. I just put it out there, and I say to myself, this is what I need to do. This is what I would like to research. And then I start looking. And gee whiz, the chapter took me in a place that I didn't expect at all, at
Well, your
all.
chapter's called the is called Children of the Industrial Revolution.
Correct, correct. So I had all intentions to start with this, with Australia, and then to go and find my way around to the goldfields. But when I did that, Guy, it was a very dark place to go. It's not a nice subject at all. So I thought, no, I don't think that's appropriate. I'm not going down that road. So then I thought, okay, well, where am I going to start?
Do you
And I
mind?
just,
Sorry, Paula. What?
yeah,
Why is it? I mean, obviously I know, but the people listening to this might not. Why
yeah.
why why is it dark?
Uh,
What put you off
Literally,
writing about it?
well, the whole, I don't know about in any other country, but what I've read about the children in Australia, particularly, well, the convict children, because apparently it literally started off that I wasn't aware at that stage when I started researching that children were sentenced as young as six, were sentenced for the death penalty or
Right.
hard labour at that time. And that shocked me. And then a lot of children were reprieved from being hung and sent to Australia on the convict ships. Those children were sent with the males and the females. A lot of those ships were not separated. Some were not. So it was just a horrific descriptions of what these people, and the children especially, were dealing with. I mean, you were having women having childbirth. You were having young females that were in childbirth on these boats. These boats took 12 months to get to Australia. When they got to Australia, they were sent into literally concentration camps, as far as I could see, and they were put to labour. They were put in factories. They literally, well, that was what the whole industrial revolution was about. I mean,
Yeah.
the forebearers thought it was wonderful that they could now use children for, free labour.
I've
And they,
often thought that that's where the term miners come from, because
yes,
whenever you look at old images of miners or you hear stories, it is children doing the work, and I can't help thinking that that's where the name came from, that they were sending miners down into these mines to work.
oh, they were, absolutely. They were sending children down in the mines. But then like I said to you, there was the convict children, and settlers' children too, apparently, that were sent to the gold fields at the time. But we had 19 asylums in a very
Hmm.
small area in the time of that 1850 when the gold was found. What did we need 19 institutions for? There was hardly any people at that time. I checked all the population at that time, and there was a lot of men, a few women, and would you believe, a lot of Chinese children, which
Oh
I found
wow.
I found very interesting. There was a lot of Chinese children, um, and a lot of children without parents, and of course they were put in orphanages up there.
Is it
Um,
possible that the Chinese children were coming from what geographically we would call Tartaria?
I would say the Tartarian children, the Chinese children were already here.
Hmm.
It's one I haven't gone down yet, but one that's definitely, there's evidence to show there was a lot of Chinese here at the time. And, you look at the old Chinese maps, and they were the first really to map the world. So that's another subject, doesn't get spoken about. So, yeah, when I looked into the mines, I just, knowing what I know now about the Ballarat Bendigo area, it's a pedophile area. It's
Oh
it's
wow.
it's very heavily, the churches and things, and there's been, there's court cases after court cases. There's a lot of generational abuse, and a lot of that generational abuse goes right back to the goldfields. So yeah, it's a horrendous part of our past. And it's a part that has not stopped. And I think, it's like the boys' towns that we had here, where they had just young boys that, were also the abuse. The abuse it's been going on, well, to this day.
Yeah,
Children
continues today.
separated and sent, there's a place called Swan Reach, which a whole lot of young children from England or Wales were sent to, very young, and they were an experiment. It was literally an experimental settlement where they had a limited amount of adults, but a lot of children, and no one still knows what really happened there. And that Swan Reach area, or Western Australia area, was having children brought to Australia right up until the 1970s.
Yeah. Yeah, this
So
was
it's
the
not,
British child migration scheme.
yes. So it's just I think it's a very, Australia has a very dark history. And I think just
Mm.
like everywhere, it's got a dark history. And the more we know about that part of certain people, the more we know what was going on.
I often find it strange with the Industrial Revolution that when you see images, photographs, that it is just children, and I
Yes.
understand that they were sending children to work, but if the factories and the mines and the workhouses are full of kids, where were the adults?
Well, this is something that I don't understand either, because in the chapter that I looked at, I've written it down here because it was something that I wanted to talk with you about. So I did some figures for the 1788 time, and then I did a figure. There was another figure there for 1851. So there was apparently 7.59 million people in England in 1788. 1 million of that were in London. You had just over 1.5 million in Scotland, and 0.3 million in Wales. What I don't understand, and then they talk, 53 years later, we've doubled that in
Mm.
1851 to 16.7 million, 2.9 million in Scotland and 1.2 million in Wales. So when you look at that just matter factually, you just think, well, okay, that's feasible. If every family has X amount of children and, there's X, that could repopulate very quickly. But then you're not looking at what was happening from 1788 to the 1850s. We were constantly in war. England was in war with France. They were was it the Crimean War? And then you've got
Napoleonic Wars and
this war, that war, everywhere a war. It's like,
yeah.
okay, so we had the Civil War as well, which apparently more men died in the American Civil War, if it did happen, than any other war ever in history. Apparently.
There's something strange I was looking at recently. I looked at the world population figures for when, if you look at the back of the dollar bill, when New World Order started in 1776, the 4th of July, and the world population was 770 million. 100 years after that, it was almost double. It was 1.35 billion. And you think, well, they doubled the population in 100 years, which is quite difficult, as you said, with a lot of death, a lot of wars going on. And I know, and I've had this conversation with other people. They said, yeah, but if you're going to war, maybe you're trying to have a baby with your wife before you left. Yeah, no, I understand that. I accept that might be possible, but you can't guarantee it. That's no surefire way of guaranteeing that you're going to definitely conceive. But the interesting thing is, it went from 770 million to 1.35 billion in 100 years. But what they don't tell you is 3.3 billion people died during the same
Yes.
period. Where did
Yes.
all these people come from?
And where are they? Where did they
Yeah.
get buried? That's another thing. I
Well,
don't see cemeteries increasing in size any day
no.
soon.
With
We're
the
not investing in
Napoleonic Wars,
cemeteries.
the frightening thing with the Napoleonic Wars is that a lot of the deceased, a lot of the bodies from those that fell during the Napoleonic Wars were shipped back to Britain and used as fertilizer for crops.
Yes.
So we
And I
ate them.
would fully believe that too.
We were eating them, and this isn't
Yes.
something that's sort of just plucked out of thin air. People can Google this. It was
Yes.
used as fertilizer. We ate the remains of the people that fell, and some people have said that there are reports of soldiers fighting in the Napoleonic Wars that were wearing the same uniforms.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. But
Yeah,
it's
killing
just not
each
the
other.
wars. It's not just the wars, Guy. We also had diseases at that time.
Yes, yeah,
We
yeah,
had plagues.
and
The plague
famine.
has never left us. My sister's got an encyclopedia, the Britannica Encyclopedia of 1758.
Wow.
And it's amazing. There's 39 volumes. The things I find in that are just blown my mind. There is literally a volume like this thick just on the plague. And
Wow.
and the description of the plague, it changes from when you go very early back from wherever they recorded for this volume. I think it was right back to the 13th century. They just say a mild plague, and the mild plague goes to a serious plague, goes to a plague, it goes to then a huge plague. So they're building up the word plague almost, and then right towards the 18th century, they say it's like the biggest word you could use for a plague is the name of this plague. And we're talking millions of people in just small areas that they're gone. They're
Yeah,
literally gone. And then little villages will lose hundreds of people. And this is all in the same time. I mean, our plagues didn't go away. They're still here in the 18th and 19th century. And they're dying of that. You had the bubonic, no, not that one. You had diphtheria. You had, what was the other one? They had to
we had a
quarantine.
cholera
Yeah,
outbreak.
cholera. They had so many different ones they were dying of. Then they
Mm,
had famine in different parts of the world. So when people are dying of starvation, they're dying from because we've got heat waves. Because I know here in Australia we had huge, huge heat waves. I think one went for 10 years.
wow.
A drought went for 10 years here. So, and then you've got flooding, and the floods are huge. They're absolutely huge. So we're losing crops, we're losing food, we're losing everything. So how are we populating?
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense, does it? It doesn't stack up.
It
This is
doesn't
why
stack
I've sort
up.
of always leaned towards the cloning theory,
Yeah.
that they repopulated using cloning. And often people say to me, oh, that technology doesn't exist, or that technology is relatively new. And I think, well, if you read Genesis, it describes taking the rib from Adam and making another life from it. And even if that's a metaphor, they're still describing it. And if you look at the oldest scripture we have, the Epic of Gilgamesh, that
Yes.
tells you that we were created in almost a lab,
Yes.
environment by gods or superior beings. So it doesn't matter how far back you look, they're talking about it.
I'm reading a very interesting book at the moment, Guy, and it's just, this is another thing with, I find, I don't know what happens with you, but if I go into a op shop or do you call them op shops in England?
What is
Um,
it? Like a
hey,
second-hand shop or a thrift
yeah, yeah,
store?
yeah,
Or yeah, I go in them all the time looking for books.
yes, yes. Well, every time I go in, some days I go in and I think, no, I'm not interested in any books today, and I'm not inclined to look in the bookshelves. There's other times where I'm not inclined at all, and it's like, Paula, get in the bookstore
Yeah.
area. You need to look, and it's like, okay, I've learned to listen to that now, and it's okay. What am I going to find today? Well,
Mhm.
a few weeks ago, I found a book called um, "The Last Woman Hung" in New South
Right.
Wales. And from memory, it was 1870. And this particular case was huge at that time because people were having the morals. They didn't want to see anyone hung anymore, especially not women. So this poor woman was trialed 5 times, Guy, 5 times. Now, in the description of the court cases and what was going on at that time in Sydney, the description is quite interesting because this woman gets put into the Darlington prison, and she is brought to the courthouses underground. And
Hmm.
there's descriptions of tunnels that lead all over the place underground. She's not to go above ground at all. The other description in the book that I found very interesting was that when she was convicted the 5th time, and this is for poisoning her husband, and yet he worked in areas where there was arsenic everywhere. So there was no proof she even did this. Uh, there was a women's lobby that started up, and they were fighting for her to not be hung. And their their reasoning behind that was because in the court, the men were saying, well, it doesn't matter if it's a male or female. If they've murdered, they need to hang. That's how we see it. The women's lobby said, no, she has 9 children. Who's going to look after these children? Her husband is dead. There is no more family. We've got enough children on the streets. We have thousands of children in Sydney living on the streets with no parents. And I thought, well, that's interesting.
Hmm.
Thousands of children. I've never heard that before in anything that I've read regarding descriptions of the rocks or anything of Sydney. But she was really, this woman who was fighting for this lady was very determined to get her back with her children because there was far too many children
Yeah.
and no parents.
The same
So
thing happened in America at the time that the incubator babies went on display, and Martin Cooney is showing these incubators around the world, in particular in America. They were showing that they could save the life of a premature baby, and
yes,
that thankfully for, for their efforts and inventing what was originally in Paris a poultry incubator,
yeah,
they did
hatcher.
go on to save lots of babies' lives. But the
Yes,
irony is that at exactly the same time that they're showing these new incubators as a life-saving device for babies that wouldn't have naturally survived, they've got an epidemic of children
Yes,
on the streets of New York and saying that we are overrun. So it doesn't make any sense that if you've got a problem where there are too many kids, why would you go on to do something to save the lives of those that wouldn't have naturally survived? So you compound the problem even further.
exactly. Because that's around the time the newspaper boys were out too, and they did
Yes.
their big protest.
Yes, that's right.
And
Yeah.
there was so many on the streets trying to sell newspapers, and they were all, literally, newspapers were fighting against them, making them fight against each other to sell more newspapers. And
Yeah.
they didn't want that. But there were so many of them in New York at that time.
Some of the kids were given guns.
Yes, yes.
And
So
that's, yeah.
that leads me to think, when you say that, that leads me to think, which what I wrote in that chapter also was in 1895, Fremantle had a world exhibition that's in Western Australia.
Yeah.
Because I started looking around and thinking, with all the world fairs out there, and we did have quite a few in Australia, would you believe?
Yeah.
And in Western Australia had about 3 or 4, which really surprised me, and one of them was out in the middle of nowhere. So I thought, I wonder if there's been an incubator baby exhibition in Australia, because I've never heard of one being done. And lo and behold, there was.
Mm,
In 1895, for 6 months, they exhibited these babies, and the moment they shut that World Fair down, the babies had disappeared. No one knew where they came from. No one knew where they went. Western Australia is not like Europe or America. It's miles away. For me to go to WA, it takes hours upon hours to go to WA just from where I am in Australia. And back then, there's no planes. There was, I don't understand where they would have got these young babies to put into incubators. That there were so many questions for me at that time. When you know where Western Australia, Fremantle is, it made no sense, especially not in 1890, 95, 96. 6 years later, there was an announcement in the paper that was headlines everywhere that this incubator had been used to save a baby called Wendy. And it was like the most amazing medical addition ever. And they were advising every hospital in 1901 to please look at these incubators to help save lives. That an incubator was totally unknown in Australia, but should be known. So within a 6-year span, everyone forgot that we had incubators being exhibited in Western Australia.
that's bizarre, isn't it? And the World's Fair itself, that's in the middle of nowhere. Why would you put it there? And where would people stay if it's quite a remote area? They've not only got to get there, but they've probably got to stay overnight when they are there.
Yes, it's the weirdest. It is the weirdest place to have to promote incubator babies. I mean, if they'd done it in Melbourne, apparently, we had millions come to the exhibitions in Melbourne. Like, why? Why would you
Yeah.
come from the other side of the world to a stinking hot place that apparently has nothing, and get on a ship and travel for a year to come to an exhibition?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just not true, is it? The
It's
I
it's
look
just
at the
not true.
figures of all of them, the amount of people they say attended, and I've questioned this so many times. So, well, okay, let's say that the figures are right, that millions of people, like they reckon in America, the Chicago World Fair, that a third of the population of America attended it. Of course, they bloody didn't. They've got to get there, and that wasn't easy, and then they've got to stay there, and there weren't enough hotels. So I sort of challenged a few people on this, and somebody said to me, well, what they did in one of the fields in the grounds is they made it a temporary camping site. No, they didn't. Don't be ridiculous. There's no photographs of that. There's no evidence. There's nothing documented anywhere. This is nonsense, utter nonsense. I don't think many people attended these at all.
No. And you can see that when you see the pictures. There's
Yeah.
hardly anyone there. The only time there's a big group of people is when the Queen is there, or someone of great importance. Then you'll see a big crowd of people. But to me, they're rent a crowd.
Yes.
They're
Yes.
literally being gathered from somewhere to pose for the picture
Yeah. And
because
there's
every
no
other
kids in the
time we look,
pictures. There aren't any
hey,
children in the pictures. They reckon all these families attended, but you don't see very many children, if any at all, attending these early World's fairs. There's no kids.
and the ones you do see are very well dressed.
Yes.
They're not the children that we're talking about. They're
No.
very, very well dressed, and they're dressed to the max. I mean, I had this discussion with Campbell and with some of the photos. They they just, if you like, I must be a very cynical person because when I look at these photos, I look at the outfits they're wearing. Like one of them that we discussed, the women had dresses on that were meant to be in the goldfields, and there was mud everywhere.
Mm,
Yet their dresses were pristine. There
mm.
was no mud. Like there should be mud on the bottom of their dresses. There should be mud
Yes.
on their shoes. There's no mud. They're as clean. The children have got crisp white shirts on and crisp white socks.
They look like
It,
they've been picked up and placed there, don't they?
they do.
And a lot of
They
them don't look like they know what's going on either. And
no.
I've seen that images of people on the beaches, early photographs of people
Yes.
on the beaches, dressed to the nines, totally inappropriate clothing to wear on a beach, and they look like they don't know where they are or what's going on.
No. Yeah. And men in top hats and suits on the building
Mm,
site, just
mm.
posing. But yeah, so the children, it's I have to say that I found when I started, Guy, the three men. Now, their names. Have you ever heard of these people? Because I haven't. And I'm not a big, I mean, I do my research totally different to a lot of people. I just find, I don't know about you, Guy, but I'm wired to comprehend and to retain information that I suppose is to my research style because
Yes.
I have tried so many times to, and my mother is a philosophy teacher. So I've been brought up with Greek philosophy. I've been brought up with the Egyptian history. I've been brought up with the Roman history. I've been brought up with, all the historians of the past. But you asked me to name one, so I know Pluto. I can't remember them because I don't feel like it is that's not what I need to be remembering or what I need to be diving
Yeah.
into. It's really
Yeah.
weird. I question myself a lot about that because I think I hear other people rattling off things from, like um, Solomon's Temple or look, I'm really bad. So, and when someone asks me questions about Greek philosophers or anything like, I look at them and I could not tell you. I literally could not tell you. Yet you ask me anything about what I research, of anything of Australia, or like at the moment I'm doing, I'm researching right into the East Indies and the Dutch East Indies and all those things that I knew way back that I was going to actually research.
Yeah.
And it's the weirdest thing. So when I started looking into the chapter, I thought, who are these three men? These
I'm the
three
same
men.
as you, Paula. I'm exactly the same. I think sometimes it's information overload. I mean, like you mentioned philosophers, and I do love and I enjoy the work of Plato. Um, and there is one particular um, philosopher that I do resonate with, but I can't remember half of his quotes, and it's Marcus Aurelius.
Yeah,
I do like his work. I've got some books of his work, and I do read them from time to time. But there's one quote that he said that resonates with me, and it is, "The only thing I know for certain is that I know nothing at all."
yeah, beautiful.
And I love
I
that
love that.
because
Yeah,
we both know from social media and from the groups we're in that there are people out there that you can put a post up about something and they'll challenge it, but based upon an opinion with no fact.
yes,
And I'll often put a post up that is based on fact, and they'll challenge it. And the problem with it is, if it's factual, if it's well documented and it's been confirmed and corroborated, it's very difficult to challenge it with your opinion and not
Yes.
firing at it with damning
Yes.
evidence that it's wrong. And the social media has created a platform for people who turn their opinions into fact without
Facts.
actually being
Yes.
able to substantiate any of it. And I guess we probably both see that every day.
Yes. And the yeah, absolutely. But I would fall into that though sometimes, Guy, because like I said, if someone asked me a question about a past historian or a past event that hasn't resonated with me, I wouldn't be able to tell. I'd look at you with a blank face and say, I'm sorry, I just don't remember. And
Yeah,
I
I do
find
get
that
that
weird.
too.
I find that really weird. So to me, does that mean that we are we're all getting our memory back? Because I honestly believe our memories were wiped, like lifetimes ago.
Yes.
And I also am starting to think that we have the time is up to the point where literally this last few hundred years has been a rental time, and the rental time's over. And that rental time also correlates with our memory. And we're all remembering significant things, but in different ways. And I think that's
Yeah.
happened because it's meant to happen that way, so that you and I can talk, because you're doing different things to me, yet it's on the same level.
Yeah.
Other people are researching different things because they resonate with different things than what I do, because there's things that people tell me that they're researching, and I'm thinking, I couldn't think of anything worse.
Mm.
I really couldn't. I couldn't even look at Egyptian history because it bores the shit out of me.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is false as well.
And it's all
Um,
false. Exactly. And that's
mm,
my other point. I do not direct my energy into something that I've always believed is not true.
yeah,
And I've always believed that before all this stuff even happened. I always question, why do we keep getting pushed towards the Egyptian history, the Greek history, the
yeah.
Roman history, when there is so much more What, are they the only people that existed at that time?
I put
Because
a
they
post up.
weren't.
I put a post up this morning, and already someone's challenged it. And it's to do with the true story of Noah in the Epic of Gilgamesh, written thousands of years before the Bible.
Yes.
That there's the same story of the flood, and Enki, the Anunnaki god, that in the Epic of Gilgamesh is described as being our creator. It tells the story of Noah and Noah's Ark, but it's obviously in Sumerian with a different name. And somebody's already questioned it, saying that the Epic of Gilgamesh is based on an earlier myth, and I said, brilliant. I wasn't aware of that. Could you share with me where
Yes.
you got this information from? Do you have access to this earlier myth? Nothing. So people will come out with this stuff, but it's very hard to take on board what they're saying, when it
Yes.
turns out ultimately it's just a belief that they have, as opposed to
Yeah.
something that's already been carbon dated, proven to be very old. It's the first version of the Bible we've ever had. It's written
Yeah.
thousands of years before the King James Bible. So how could it possibly be that the same story appears throughout all these civilizations, but it all boils down to the very first story? They're all telling the same tale. How can you
Yeah.
say that what's written in the Bible about the story of Noah happened exactly like that if it was written by somebody else thousands of years earlier?
Well, I have heard that before too, Guy. I have heard that that the Bible is based on much earlier stories,
Mm,
of a different civilizations. It's just different names. I suppose it's like us. I mean, we can have a similar story. We're just putting different names and different titles on it. So
yeah,
we're going through exactly the same thing as what happened back then. And I just think we're on repeat. I just feel like we're on repeat
yeah,
constantly. We're
yeah. I think you're
constantly, and
right.
to me, it's getting boring. It's like, it can almost be predictable what they're doing. I mean, at the moment, they're literally convincing the Christians that we're uh, in the Revelations, but
Yes.
that's all. To me, it's already, they're doing it.
Oh,
Every,
absolutely. It's already going
you know,
on.
yeah, they're making it happen. They're
Yeah.
making all happen so that people start, so the belief system, the programming gets thickened again and it's entrenched again in the brain. But there's some of us, none of this works anymore.
I think that I've sort of given this quite a lot of thought over the years, and I understand that our DNA carries memory, and I
Yes,
think it's carrying the memory of our ancestors, which would make sense.
absolutely.
And something's happened to trigger that. And
Yeah.
people often say to me, how come all of my friends are on a different page to me? That I'm looking at Tartaria, I'm looking at Atlantis, Hyperborea, um, I'm looking at old world civilizations and what went before. And I can't help thinking that how we live now is out of balance. Things don't sit right. What happened in 2020, I didn't go along with because it didn't feel um, it felt wrong. It felt like we were
Yes.
being played, we were being tricked,
Yeah.
and it sort of aligns with this theory of it, but we us being in Satan's little season. And they say, but why aren't my friends like that? And I think it's to do with your ancestry. I think that some of us do descend back thousands of years, and we're
Yes.
carrying this memory, so we know things aren't right, and things to us, we're almost in conflict with ourselves. And then there are people who don't question any of the narratives. They go along with everything. And I think that's because they don't carry that memory. There is
Yeah.
nothing inside
Maybe.
them, no inner dialogue saying, this isn't right, we mustn't comply, or this feels wrong. They don't have that. And I think they're what we call NPCs these days.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, because I've actually done all my ancestry history on my mother's side right back to the Crusades. I got right back to the 12th, actually in the 11th century for my mother. And that was fascinating, absolutely fascinating. My father, luckily, someone had already done his history, and his family all come from the island of Texel in Holland. So, but the journey I had, Guy, was the most profound journey I've ever had in my life, par what I'm doing now. And that was the connection that I felt with my ancestors. It was so strong. It really was so strong. And the same thing, I was being guided constantly to different places to look for ancestors. I had people that I connected with that found things of my grandparents and my ancestors as well. They go back to Orange, Prince Orange, and one of my ancestors was given a village for a village he'd become the mayor of because he
Wow.
fought for Prince Orange in the 15th century. Um, all my family was in military, which I knew my great grandfather was, but I didn't realise the whole family was in military, which everyone probably would have been at that time. They were involved in Indonesia, the railways in Indonesia. It was the most fascinating journey. It really was. And the connection to some of my ancestors, I didn't feel as strong, but with some of my ancestors, it was like this. There was this feeling internally in my stomach that, when you really love someone and you get that fuzzy feeling in your tummy and you look at them and you think, God, I love you. Your animals, I
It,
just love
it, I've got to share this with you. This is not something I tell anybody. That only my wife knows this, but I've got to say it. I feel compelled to. When I am thinking about someone I love, and this morning actually it was my dog Alfie that died
you.
earlier this
Yes.
year. I get an electric shock up my left arm.
Yeah, okay. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, it's really
Wow.
strange, and yeah, it's not painful, but it's
Yeah.
this electrical sort of charge that goes up my left arm from my wrist up to my inner elbow, and it can stay there until I stop thinking about it, and it's really weird. I've thought before I was having a heart attack, and it's not.
Wow.
It's love.
It's
It's
love.
it's
Yes.
the electric
Yeah,
being
the electric
generated from
current.
the yeah, it's the current. And
Yeah.
of course your left side is your main artery, goes directly to your heart.
Your heart.
So
Yes.
I physically feel love.
Wow.
It's
That's
it's
amazing,
it is
Guy.
so odd, but it was scary when it first happened. I
Yeah.
did think I was having a heart attack. I thought it was
Yes.
the
But
beginning, perhaps a
yeah.
sign that I was.
Yeah. Yeah. So But that's what I'm saying with my ancestral thing. Some of my great grandfathers. Oh my God, it was like they were here with me. I could feel them. I could. One of my great great grandfather fought in the Napoleon War, and he went back to Duisburg, and they had a little business. He had a little business in the town, and every morning he would get up and he'd go get the newspaper and sit outside the cafe and have a cup of coffee after he fought in this war. And this particular night, apparently they were invaded by the French, and he went to get up in the morning to go for his walk, unaware of that they'd been invaded, and he was shot and killed.
Oh,
Now, I have had such a close connection with that man even before I found that out, because that was part of my journey to find out what happened to him, because no one knew what happened to him.
mm,
But the connection I had with my great great grandfather was, I can't even explain it, and yet he's not here. So what you're saying is that definitely resonates with me, and I just definitely believe that our DNA of our ancestors, and it's proven, it's scientifically proven anyway, we all carry
yeah.
some form of our ancestors' DNA with us, and it's whether that part of us is open to listen, because
Yes.
there's so much that is talking to us right now, more than ever. We just need to be open to listen to it and get rid of all the white noise, the media and everything,
Mm,
and just go out. I know it's cliche, walk on the grass with your bare feet and
yeah.
center yourself, and just don't think of anything, because we are being guided so much at the moment, and there's so much that is influencing, whether it be the ancestors of our past, whether it be our future self, whether it be the collective in the ether. I don't know, but what I do know is that it is very determined.
Yeah. It's
It's
really
very
weird.
determined.
I've spent the last 5 years researching Tartaria and everything to do with it. But whenever I start doing that, at the moment I'm looking at the world's fairs a lot more closely,
Yeah.
and going back to the beginning, allegedly the first one, and then bringing it up to date, and each time I sit down to start writing, I'm pushed, or it keeps telling me to actually look more closely at things in the Bible, and hence
Okay.
posting today about the original Noah, and
Yeah.
there's something telling me that I need to be looking at other things, and I don't know what it is, but whenever I try and concentrate on anything to do with Tartaria right now, my
You
mind's
can't.
pulled over to end of
Yep.
days, Satan's
Yep.
little season, our creation, who made us, why are we here, spiritual warfare, what's going on. And last night I ended up looking at, I don't know if you've heard about this, but the dead internet theory.
No.
I'm looking at that. I'm looking at Project Lazarus, which is the transfer of consciousness from
Oh,
one.
yes, yes, yes.
And I'm like, hold on a minute. I'm looking at World's Fairs. Where am I going? And it's all the
Because
time.
you know why? You're past it now. I found that too. I can't, there's some subjects I cannot go back to, even though I want to. It's like, no, you can't. It's done. It's almost like that's done. We're pushing you this way now. This is where you need to focus your energy. And I get that too. I
Weird,
get
isn't
that
it?
too, guys.
Because obviously Tartaria is what I'm known for, but as much as
But
it's
it's a
always going
growth.
to.
It's a
Pardon?
growth.
Yes, yes, I guess
So
it is in a way. Yeah. But
yeah, it's
it's
a
something
growth.
I'm passionate about, because in my mind, if I can tell people that they erased a civilization and rewrote history, then they're going to stop believing everything else they come out with. If that is the biggest thing, that it's the biggest thing you could do. The
Mm-hmm.
biggest conspiracy of them all is to wipe an entire civilization off the face of the history books, and the face of the earth. If you can do that, you can do it. You can lie and deceive people about
Oh,
anything.
absolutely.
So I use it as a kind of
Absolutely.
wake up call. If they're capable of doing this, do you really think that they're not capable of doing the other things that we talk about, like 9/11 or 2020's pandemic and so on? Do you really think that's a drop in the ocean compared to what they have done before and what they're capable of.
Oh, they're so capable of so much more when you look at the past and look at all the
Mm,
civilizations we have underneath the ground. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. It
yeah.
really is.
We've sort of gone off on
What
a
we've done.
tangent, haven't we? Because you were
Yeah,
going to
we
tell us
have.
about
I do it all the time.
these three, these three
Okay, I am
characters.
going to ask you.
Yeah.
Okay, so have you heard of Matthew Bolton, William Murdoch, and James Watt?
No, I haven't.
Because they're the three gold plaqued men in Birmingham that started the Industrial Revolution, that looked over a map of the world, and they're the deities that decided we're going to, do this for humanity and have an industrial revolution. I've never heard of them.
No,
And,
no, me
and
neither.
when I wrote it down, I thought, oh, well, maybe I need to look into them. And I think, no, I've got enough to look at. I've got, I've got so much. But that's what got me started on the chapter. And I wasn't going there, Guy, at all. I was not going. It's not where I was going. And this is what we're talking about, really, is that we get guided.
Yes.
And as soon as I read that, I thought that's where the chapter starts. And that's where my chapter ended, actually, as well. Back with those three men I'd never heard of before and never
No,
even knew what do they stand for.
no.
So yeah, so it's this is the part where we do get guided. It's just the weirdest. It is a very weird experience for me. I mean, I have a lot of weird experiences anyway, but I just find that I trust my intuition more now than I ever have before, and my intuition's always been very strong, but it got to a point where I didn't want it in my life, and now I'm embracing it because it doesn't matter what goes on. I have to do these things. I'm just propelled into a direction,
Yeah.
and I know with that chapter, if I looked and I just started and I opened my mind, something would come that would start that chapter. And it did. And that chapter flowed for me so easily because it all came. It just all came to me. I read that chapter back and I think, Paula, did you really write that? And it's another thing. I can write things and not even remember that I wrote them.
Yes,
There's
I'm the same.
comments. Do you
I'm
do
the
the same?
same. Yeah, people often say to me, "On page blah blah blah, you mentioned something or other." I think, Jesus, there's no way. My brain doesn't work like that. And I think I for years, I was misdiagnosed. I have always struggled with anxiety. I've always sort
Yes.
of had been overthinking, worrying about something, and I was misdiagnosed for about 20 years, and I was given all sorts of different medication. And at one point, somebody said to me, "I'm surprised you can even function with all the medication you've
Wow.
been put on, because your brain's working so hard to stay present and be
Yeah.
aware of what's going on right now that it's
Yeah.
not retaining anything else." But
Yeah.
what they didn't realize was that my brain retains an awful lot of information, but if I haven't written it down, I don't seem to
Yes.
be able to recall it very easily. It's in there, but I have
Yes.
to have written it down with a pen and paper in one of my many notepads, and then I can
Look at
recite
my
it.
many notepads. I have many notepads. I have piles of notepads, Sky.
I've got two on the go at the moment.
That's how we were taught.
Mm,
I was taught that at school. You write everything down.
yeah,
And if you can't remember it, you write it more than once, and it
yeah.
stays in your head. And I've always functioned like that too. But I also realise now um, that I do automatic writing, and I've never recognised that before, or never put a title to it. I think it's just
Mm,
been something that's been normal for me.
yeah,
So I believe, I'm just talking for myself, but I believe myself, yourself, and a lot of other people that I know at the moment that are researching and going through this process, that we have a lot of uploads
yes.
in the shower. Like when I drive my
Oh,
car, that's when I get them all. It's just, and so I've got to have a pen and paper with me in the car. So
I've
I
got to
write
share this
these
with you.
thoughts down, or I'll get up in the morning and it's like a dream. I'll have these thoughts going through my head about a subject or something about somebody. And I know if I don't get that written down ASAP, it's like a dream. The
Gone.
whole information will just fade very quickly. So I'll grab a pen and paper and I'll just write. The other week, I wrote so much about the Melbourne Shrine and about, just so many things about World War II, World War One, why the Aboriginals, what's happening with them. Just all this stuff came to me one morning and I knew I had to write it down. I think I wrote 6 A4 pages back to
Wow.
front, and I don't even remember writing what I wrote. I
That's
don't remember.
incredible.
So then I have to go back and read it, and I read it and I think, what is all I
It is
don't remember
definitely an
writing it.
upload, isn't it? You're
So
uploading information from
I'm
somewhere.
uploading all the time, but I think a lot of us are. I don't think some of us realise what that actually means.
Mm.
We have thoughts. We might think it's a dream we wake up to, but it's that subconscious state of driving a car, being in the shower, just doing mundane things, even doing the dishes. It's when your brain is not actually functioning and thinking about anything. It's just in the subconscious
Yes.
that it just comes through. And when that happens for me, I'll actually go on Google and I'll find what I'm looking for. And I'll find what backs up what I just automatically wrote.
That's the,
It's
I
just
do the
bizarre.
same thing, Paul. I do. This is what I did last night. I text myself last night that I was falling asleep, and I text myself vampires, elixir of life, Club of Rome, dead internet, Count of Saint Germain, Aleister Crowley, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn,
Mm,
Geoffrey Hudson, the court jester that the royals bought as a freak, Elvis
yep.
Presley, and U.S. aid. U.S. aid is something I'm looking into at the
Yes.
moment. And I thought,
Now,
well, where did that all come from? I was actually just falling asleep, and I got up and I
yes.
texted myself all of that.
And this is why we're getting these uploads. It's just, and it's, like I said, I don't know where it's coming from, but it's very persistent. I know if I try and ignore it, I can't. It's
Mm,
like, no, Paula, no, 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 no. You've
mm,
got to do this, or you've got to go to that shop now, or you've got to look on Google now and look up da da da, and it happens.
mm,
And Aleister Crowley,
mm.
you need to watch Michelle Gibson on
Yeah, I
Alex.
do. She's been on my show before, but yeah, I
Oh,
do follow her.
what she found on, like what she says about Aleister Crowley just makes she puts him right there at all the rituals for everything that has
Yeah,
happened to us in the last 100 or so years.
yeah,
So very interesting what she's come up with Aleister
yeah.
Crowley.
I'll have to have a look at that because the information that I've got on him is just from what I've researched. But I'd put it to one side. And I hadn't really thought about it, and then last night, for whatever reason, it became important again. But
Yes,
Michelle's work that I've looked at is just really to do with the energy grid, the
yes.
ley lines that we're on.
No, she talks with Kelly and Campbell about Aleister Crowley and how he has caused a lot of the glitches with his ritual and his black magic. And that's why he was so important to certain people,
Mm.
because he changed timelines and stuff as well.
I'll
So
have
it's
to look
very
at that.
interesting.
Yeah, there. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no, very, very interesting, because I've always felt Aleister Crowley had something to do with our timeline shifts.
Yeah,
So,
he's someone that a lot of people recognize the name, but don't actually know exactly what he was doing and how nefarious he was, how dark he was, playing
oh,
with the occult, and yeah, it sort of reminds me, and it slightly reminds me of John Dee, the
yes,
alchemist. Yeah, it
yes,
reminds me of that. Um,
yeah.
we've completely gone off on another tangent now, haven't we?
It always happens. But yeah, look, quickly going with the chapter, it was an absolute joy. I could have gone into a lot of different directions, Guy, but I tried to keep it online. But I did actually, all what we're talking about, going back to the chapter, I didn't expect to end up where I ended up, though, in that 1901, where they totally ignored that we had incubator babies in Australia and acted like it
Yeah.
was a totally new invention and that never been heard of. Even though, and they didn't even mention the world fairs and how they were in the world fairs either. And then that brought me to the quintuplets in Canada. What a horrific story
Do,
that is. Those
do you want to
5
share
girls.
that?
Hey?
Do you want to share that now?
Well, look, I'll just quickly base it's in the chapter, but those girls were literally put into a zoo. A hospital was specially designed for them in the 1930s, and they were literally watched like monkeys. They were put into numerous movies. I think Fox and 21st Century did stories with them all the time. And those children grew up with massive mental problems
Mm.
from the way they were brought up. A lot of people made a lot of money from those 5 girls. And the town of, what's it called? Let me see. Did write it down. The Diona quintuplets, Ontano in Canada. We're talking depression. We're talking a time where people had no money, no food, no work, and yet that little town of Otano, I think it's called, they made 20 million. I wrote 5 million, but I later found out because there's actually documentaries on these girls.
Right.
For $20 million that town made from those 5 little babies, as well as the doctor, and those children were also displayed with the incubator babies at one of the world fairs.
Wow. Wow. I mean, I posted a little while ago about a lad, a young lad that was taken from his tribe and put on display in a human zoo at one of the world's fairs, and then
Yes.
went on after that to actually be in a zoo. They put him in a cage with an orangutan, and when he was eventually allowed to be set free, but there'd been a lot of campaigning for him to be treated as a human being rather than some sort of animal. When he was finally allowed to live a normal life, he shot himself.
Oh,
Yeah, so he sort of, I suppose, in a really cruel sense, he got to choose his end, where he had
yes.
no choice over how he lived prior to that.
Yes.
You know,
But I
he
think a lot of them were captured for that very reason in the fairs, because if like I've really delved into a lot of the Aboriginal stuff
Mhm.
because of what the research that I'm doing, and I didn't bring it up in the chapter because it's another rabbit hole. But this whole separation of of children is to stop the culture, to stop the
Yes.
stories, to stop the family stories and anything else, the DNA ancestral um, evolution of each family, and wasn't just with the tribal, the original people. It was with us white people as well,
Yeah.
or every person. I don't care. Like I keep saying, I don't care the Aboriginals called us all the rainbow people, which involved all skin colours. I mean, that whole business about whites and that was it's all programming anyway. It's a way of separating us all.
Don't the
They even
Aboriginals,
study.
they have a story about the rainbow serpent, don't they?
Yes.
Hmm.
Yep. And the rainbow tribes are people of all of the skin colorings.
Hmm.
So they took away all the children of England and wherever else away from their families. So they had no knowledge, so they could be reset. And that literally gave them amnesia because they didn't know who they were or where they came from or what their
Hmm.
culture was. The same as the Aboriginals. They were deliberately taken from their tribes, the children, to separate them from the Dreamtime stories and the Dreamtime,
Yes.
literally Dreamtime. So I'm finding a lot of interesting stuff, and I actually get a lot of comments from the from some Aboriginal, or originals, I like to call them, that are very interesting, because they also back the story of, their elders saying that there was a lot of, the white mob that were in Australia way before Cook.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
I
and they
don't fall
come
for
up
the
with some
story of
wonderful
Cook.
stories. Hey,
I don't believe in the story of Cook
oh,
at all. Because there's
no,
some of the earliest paintings, and in my first book, I put a couple of them in. There are paintings of the ships arriving for the very first time, and there are buildings and windmills everywhere.
yes, and I'm doing that story. I'm actually doing that story with Campbell. Yeah, and did you know there was two French fleets, two French ships in that bay at that time too?
Yes, incredible, isn't it? It's just a complete lie. And it makes you doubt Christopher Columbus. It makes you doubt everything. And you
I
get to a
think they were
point where
all
you,
spies. They're all
yes,
spies. They're all spies. And what they had to do was report back to whoever they reported back to. Oh, yeah, that country is good to be taken. That one's good to be taken.
yeah,
They're just spies. I mean, I unraveled. I'm going deep into this one. That's what I've been researching. The whole Banks, Mr. Sir Joseph Banks, and his cover story. Literally a cover story that he was a botanist. He wasn't. He was part of the English Indian East Indies Company.
right. Okay,
So
yeah.
were Flinders, and so was Cook. And Cook,
Mm,
actually, I found a manuscript of someone from late, because people were questioning the Australian narrative back in the 1800s. I've found so many, it's not funny.
mm,
Um, and Cook was actually part of a renegade band of ship people, because at one time, I'm going back, but one time in the 1770s, you weren't allowed to go on a ship or have a ship. You had to be part of a crew for a captain, or part of an elite ship captain.
yeah.
Um, and so some of these boaties got really shitty with that. And so they said, well, literally, stuff you. If we want
Mm,
to go out in a boat like we do now, stuff you. If you want to lock me down, I don't care. I'm getting out in the car and I'll do what I like. They did the same with the boats. So they actually went out in their boats without documentation and did what they wanted to do. But they also didn't like the Spanish. So they then started to, a lot of the English and a lot of the French were at one stage with the East Indies too. They wanted to align and like get rid of the Spanish and the Portuguese, because they had far too much trading in the southeast, in the South
yeah.
Pacific. This is another thing where the history doesn't add up, Guy. We had so many ships going to India, China, Indonesia, all from about the 14th century, getting their trades, their spices. Well, India was called Spice Island. Indonesia, sorry, was called Spice Island. Indonesia is not far from Australia. You
No.
can't tell me all these ships were coming past, and like, we're not talking a few, we're talking hundreds of ships that were going in that South Pacific Ocean to trade, and they were all fighting each other to get the gold, the spices, the cloth, everything. So they were, if they saw a big country like Australia, you don't think they were going to come in here and see what they could find to trade with? They
No.
were.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so they were part of the East Indies, which I found very interesting, because the East Indies is one I haven't, because my ancestors were part of the Dutch East Indies. So it's always one I wanted to follow up.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I've gone into people who went and salvaged shipwrecks that were, shushed up, or literally, in
Oh,
Australia. So,
really? So is
mm,
this, so people are finding ships that
oh
shouldn't have
yeah.
been there with people on board, and I
No,
suppose,
the shipwrecks, the Portuguese, the Spanish, the Dutch, the Venetians.
yeah, no, what I mean is the people are going and finding evidence that there are ships there that don't fit the narrative. They're
Yes.
finding
And
wrecks of
then they're,
ships that shouldn't have been there. Yeah,
mhm,
yeah.
mhm. You know, the inland sea of Australia, which Sturt talked about a lot. So there's just so much there to find. And like I said, Australia, we can still get pretty, like I'm reading journals at the moment that, that they talk about Cook going out in these boats with these renegades and literally taking down Spanish ships.
So from that, you're guessing that the Spanish were there before the
Oh,
British
yeah.
Empire, by a long way.
Oh,
And
yes.
what about the Dutch? Because in some of these early paintings, I've seen windmills.
Yeah, windmills.
So possible that they were there a lot earlier than the British Empire turned up too.
Oh, we had windmills everywhere. We had them on the coast of Queensland. We had them on in Sydney. We had them in Canberra. Like everyone thinks Canberra was a new place. It's not. It's not new at all. They literally wiped whatever was in Canberra. But yeah, like the Blue Mountains, like there's
Mm.
just so much. There's so much evidence here, Guy. It's not funny. There's just so much. And it's questionable, and it's, yeah, there's even markings. I'm just reading about a guy who discusses that Cook was a liar, and he wrote a book in 1911 and called the Jean Rideau book, and he calls Cook a liar because he
Right.
said his descriptions of places that he said he saw when he first landed, this particular person studied it and found that there was no way he could have walked those places that he just vaguely describes in the time that he said he did it. But also, too, in that time that he walked that, there was a shipwreck off the coast in Sydney that belonged to there was a Portuguese shipwreck and had been sighted in the late 1600s, early 1700s. And this person said that boat would have still been there in 1770. Parts of it still would have been there where it was, because it wasn't deep offshore. It was very
Yeah.
close to the coast. So he doesn't mention that. He doesn't mention a boulder that you can still see now that has etching on it that shows the hull of a Spanish ship as well as writing. And
Oh,
he
wow.
would have walked right over it. So I'm reading all these manuscripts about all these things at the moment, and they're just fascinating.
And that boulder's still there.
Yes. As well as many other markings. Apparently, when the Spanish wanted to take a country or declared that it was theirs, they would cut into the stone the whole shape of the boat that they arrived in, and then what they would do, initials of the captain apparently, and initials of whoever was king of Spain or the empire, pardon me, would be also etched in the rock. Then they, along the coastline, after they do that, that would be the main part of the takeover. Then they would then cut knots, literally slice different numbers or different marks into the rocks all along the coastline where they'd been, to literally say, this is our territory.
Yeah.
When they questioned back in the 1900s what these things were, the historians told them that all it was they didn't know what the boulder was, but they were sure they were all Aboriginal cuttings in the stone along the coastline, which they made with stone-shaped spears. They
That
couldn't have
sounds
done it.
unlikely.
They were very deep, like really deep. They had to be
Yeah.
made by metal.
Metal,
They
yeah.
couldn't have been made by anything else. But the historians still now say it was done by Aboriginals. They can't, and they say that the boulder was done by the Italian immigrants that were around that time. They were just drawing on that boulder. Oh, come on. They
Do
were
you
just
find
drawing
that
on.
Like, do you find that most people that you talk to, that if they're not sort of coming from where we are, when you share this information with someone who's not really awake, how do they take it? Do they take it on board, or do they just think you're mad, or are people
I
questioning this now?
I just pick my mark. I don't really discuss it with people unless it's with people that are on the same page as me, because
Yeah.
obviously, as you can see, I'm a talker and I like to express myself and what I find. So hubby listens and he'll then give me good feedback. He's always my balancer. But I'm so lucky, Guy, that I have a very big circle of friends now that are all on the same page as
Mm,
me. Sometimes they go, Paul, it's a bit far-fetched, da. And then later on they go, oh, well, maybe it wasn't so far-fetched because look at this. They'll send me
mm.
something and say, this is backing up what you're saying. And so I'm lucky in that way. But I do, my mother's the main one because she's the philosophy teacher. Sometimes if I get her in a
Yeah.
good mood, I can actually, say, do you really believe in history? Because I don't. And she still teaches at 88, God love her, philosophy.
Wow, that's
It's
incredible.
amazing. Yeah. My father probably more so starts to listen because he gets the old Nexus books and everything. He loves the old Nexus magazines. Um, so I remember one day we were in a little country town having lunch, and it was just a standard country Australian town. But right in the middle of it, we have a Tartarian building with the big tower and very ornate, very Moroccan looking. Like we have a lot of Moorish buildings here, which is something I
Yes.
haven't even gone into, and Flemish style brickwork. So that's something I haven't even gone into yet, and I don't feel inclined to go to it, but I know it's there.
Yeah.
So I said to my father, just think back, Dad, horse and cart, a hammer and a chisel. You're a carpenter. In the 1850s, when that building over there was meant to be built, do you reckon they could have built that? And he'll look at it, Paula, nay, nay. And I went, I don't think so either, Dad. And he says, very interesting. Never looked at it like that. And he's seen this
Mm.
building God knows how many times. So he absolutely loves this subject now. And he wants to know more and more and more, to the point, I probably can't bring this up on YouTube, but to the point of a alternative thinking of World War II with a certain person that was meant to be a dictator.
Oh, do you know what? That is so weird, Paula. That is so weird. I was going to say a moment ago that when it comes to truth bombs, I said something on a podcast recently for a channel called Across the Pond, and
Yep.
they've asked me to go on, and I was chatting to this young lad, um, and his name's Jordan Nuttall. Jordan, I think you
Oh,
know.
yes, I know
Yeah,
Jordan. Lovely.
yeah, so he's desperate to sort of get his name out there. He really wants to be taken seriously and credible. And he's buying all of these old books, and he's getting all of this information, and it's
Yep,
become a
doing a
bit of an
great job.
obsession for him. And it's
Yep.
wonderful because he's so young. I think he's only 22. And during this podcast, I said to him, I've been looking at the Second World War, and I've been looking at this for a very long time. Both well, three of my dad's dad was a squadron leader in the Royal Air
Yep.
Force. He was a prisoner of war as well for about a year. My mum's father, her real blood father, he came from Ukraine. When he was on the orphan trains, he came over from
Yep.
Ukraine to America in 1906, and then
Wow.
ended up serving in the American, the U.S. Air Force, and was stationed in Britain during the Second World War. My grandfather, my mum's father, as I know, the man who raised her, he was in the Royal Air Force. My uncle was in the Royal Air Force. My
Yep.
cousin was in the Navy. Two of my closest friends were in the Army, and my youngest son qualified to be a pilot in the Royal Air Force. So
Wow.
I come from a place where it's the Air Force and people fighting in my family in the war is something that is quite close to me. But I
Yeah.
started looking at the area of London that got bombed the most, and it was the East End. And I said to Jordan that I find it interesting that if you were flying over from Germany and you wanted to do some damage, you would take out something other than the most deprived area of London. And a couple of people that listen to this podcast said, "Well, that's where all the docks were." Blah blah blah. No, that isn't where they bombed. They bombed the houses. They bombed
Yes.
huge areas of heavily populated, deprived people. That's where it was bombed. And then I looked at who was what happened next, and apparently, um, two people, one called Abercrombie, another one called Goldfinger, were property developers that had been trying to redevelop the land in the East End of London for a very long time, and they'd hit so many problems with people refusing to budge, refusing to move, kicking off,
Yeah.
and just having nothing to do with it. And then along comes World War II, and that's the only area that was devastated, that was flattened. I'm not saying they didn't bomb other places, but that
Yeah.
area was completely wiped out. And it just happened to be exactly the same area of land. And I thought that is strange because I would have took out St Paul's, I would have took out Buckingham Palace,
Yes.
Parliament, Palace of Westminster, something significant. And then I started sort of wondering whether or not this was all orchestrated and that there was a scapegoat put in place, a fool guy, the
Hmm.
bad guy, because there always has to be one. And
Absolutely.
and I sort of and I've been looking into it ever since. And I've got a post that I've had for a little while that I'm reluctant to put up on Facebook because there are so many people out there that don't read all the information or the facts. They look at the first headline, if you like,
Yep.
decide that what you've said is wrong or it's this, that, and the other. And somebody actually commented, "Oh, next you'll be denying the what happened in the concentration camps." And I thought, well, you know, don't go there, mate, because my mum's
No.
Jewish, so
Yeah.
don't go
Yeah.
there because you're trying to find something that isn't there, so you can try
Yeah.
and ridicule someone to make yourself look more intelligent or more righteous than somebody else. And all I was doing was posing a question. Is it possible, is it at all possible that the bombing that took place in the East End of London during the Blitz had an ulterior motive behind it?
Motive. Yep.
Yeah, and would
Yep.
perhaps could have been orchestrated by someone other than who we've led to believe. And then I started looking at the planes that flew over to bomb and the capacity they had to hold fuel and the range that they could get to. And that has led me down another garden path, rabbit hole, if you like. And again, it's
Yeah.
very difficult to share this information. You can share it with people that are open-minded.
Yes.
Some people instantly resonate and think, I've been thinking that too. And some people, it's like you've offended them for
Yes.
just posing a theory or a
A
thought and saying,
question.
I
Yes.
wonder. But I do think that's the problem with social media. A lot of people use it as a platform to attempt to ridicule or to seem more intelligent than the person that's put the post up.
I
And
think so too.
it's a
But I
real
also,
shame, isn't it?
yeah, it's a shame, but I think we're all on different levels, Guy.
Yeah.
We're all on different levels. And, I just see it as a big onion. And
Yes.
there's layers and there's layers and there's layers. And some people just choose to be on the top layer. They don't want to go down the bottom layer. And I think it's a subconscious thing. I don't even think it's a conscious thought. They they don't want to see what's around them because if you do believe in souls being evolving, some souls are here just to be in the matrix or whatever this is. They're
Yeah.
not here to question. They're not here to do anything but be the robot, the NPC, whatever you want to call them. That's what they're here for. The next layer of people are like your trolls and your shrills and your and people that what all of us questioning now, because I can remember a time growing up that questioning things was more acceptable than it is now, to some extent.
Yeah.
Depends on questions. And I think some subjects were very open to questioning, and other subjects was a totally closed book. And I think that's what's happening now, is that
Mm.
there's people that just want that book kept closed. And it's like me not wanting to go down that dark spot that I could have gone to in the chapter,
Yes.
because it's like putting something to chat or to this horrible AI. You get different variations of what you send, to just get your sentences checked and everything. So you can have the nice variation, and you can have the mediocre variation, or you can have the one that just appeals to everybody
Yeah.
variation. And I think that's where we're at. I think,
Yeah.
and some people spiritually are just not able to open their minds enough. It's like the whole, I won't say it because I've got friends that are in that onion layer, the Trump onion layer,
Hmm.
the
Yeah, I
Q,
know.
the
I know
Q
where you
onion
go.
layer,
Yeah.
and then you've got, the 5G onion layer, and you've got the chemtrail onion layer, and there's people that they just want to peel that apart, but they don't want to go down another layer.
Mm.
And I find that a lot. They just get stuck on that layer. They're comfortable in that layer. That's what they believe in. And they're just not allowing to evolve. I was on that layer, and I was dead set that layer was the truth and the be all of everything.
Mm.
But then one morning I woke up and thought, no, no, definitely not. It's not. It's it's not. So I would jump down into the next layer, and that would give me other things to look at, and other things to open my mind, and other things to evolve from.
Yeah.
And I think as you're evolving, you're growing so much as a person in every aspect. But when people see that and you become, I think the biggest thing we have to learn is to be our authentic self. It's not
Yes.
just about love. I think people use that word love like sprinkling friggin', I hate it. Love and light, love and
Mm.
light. It's not about love and light. It's about authenticity. And I
Mm.
think the more we allow ourselves to grow and question and research maybe, or just to accept life and love life and nature, and just don't limit ourselves to be just this one thing, this one layer. Allow
Mm.
ourselves to be many layers and many facets of who we are, because that's who we learn who our authentic self is.
Mm.
And I think the people you're talking about, they don't want to see their authentic self.
No.
They want to judge, and they want to stay in that judgmental, critical, you don't know what you're talking about. Prove what you're saying. Prove it, prove it, prove it. I mean, how many times did we hear that over COVID? Prove
Mm.
it, prove it. I don't need to prove anything. If you
No.
don't want to listen to what I have to say, don't listen. I don't care.
Yeah. Do you know, I was speaking to a friend of mine yesterday. He's quite a well-known podcaster here in England called Richard Vobes. And he's got sort of, I think, 260,000 subscribers to his channel. So he's well respected. He talks every week. He's at a different event talking about how we can become sovereign and understand our own power, and disconnect from organizations or authorities that believe that we're subservient to them. And he said to me yesterday that he has people actually specifically watch his podcasts every morning. He does a 10-minute monologue so they can attack him. And he used to engage with them. He used to reply saying, "Oh, I'm sorry that you feel that way, blah blah blah." And he said he's got to the point now where he's realised that acknowledging them is the
Give them
worst thing he
power.
could possibly do, because it's almost like he's fueling them. And
Yep.
I've sort of learned that the hard way from having people. um, it's a complete polar opposite on my sort of comments. I have people that say, "Oh, I'm glad I'm not the only person thinking this," as I said earlier on, and thank you for sharing this. I've been looking into it too. And then I'll have people that actually be quite rude or,
Yes.
or abusive, and And I wonder if that is actually because they don't have a voice. So perhaps they were bullied at school, or they're on their own. They don't have any, really any friends or anything. They're lonely, or they're in a job where they're pressured or bullied by an unpleasant boss or whatever, and that the only outlet they have to get their own back is social media, because you can hide behind that screen. And I think a lot of
Absolutely.
people are quite happy to say something unpleasant online,
Yes.
but if you were stood in front of them, it becomes harder. And I'm not saying that's because people are going to go around beating each other up. I don't mean that. I mean that to actually say something insulting to someone's face takes something else, and you don't know how that other person's going to react. They could
No.
become quite offended and become physical, or they could actually absolutely destroy you. And I've been in situations over the years where someone's tried to ridicule me to my face, and I sort of take it my stride and don't think anything of it, because there's part of me that thinks, okay, what I could do now is use a relatively high IQ. I'm a member of Mensa, quite well educated. I could
Yeah.
use all of that to destroy you in front of your friends right now and make you
Yeah.
feel as small as you've tried to make me. Or I can walk away because your opinion doesn't matter. You are not someone I care about, so you can't hurt me.
Yep. It's also about, we are at a place now where we reflect what they aren't. And I think that is something that is very difficult for people to deal with. So, in saying that, we are all each other's mirrors. So,
Mm,
there's something in you that triggers them.
yes.
I trigger people a lot, because I am who I am. I won't change for anybody. I don't believe in all the crap that goes on in this world. Is like, to me, I'm not going to deal with any of it. I am who I am. I'm trying to be as an authentic person as I can be. And that threatens people. They don't like it
Yes.
because it's like,
No.
well, you think you're more superior to me. Well, no, I don't. I don't think I'm more superior to anybody, but I don't have to answer to anyone anymore. I'm in a beautiful place in my life where I don't have to fit in with anyone. I don't have to
Mm,
fit in with anyone's expectations. I don't have to fit with anyone's look of what I need to look like. I am who I am, and people either love me or they don't, and I'm fine with that.
yeah.
Some people can't. Some people cannot be fine with that, and they have to do something because it threatens them so much, and their own insecurities and their own lack of understanding of who they truly are and what they truly could possibly be. And that's another thing that I find a lot of people just don't, they see, when you have come where we've come, and we've got so much to learn. I don't know anything. None of us know anything. We don't even know what we're researching is the truth. It could be far from the truth. I don't know. But for me, it's my purpose in life now, and it
Yeah.
always has been my purpose. If that threatens somebody else, well, I can't be held accountable for that, because it's not about me. It's about why they feel that way. And maybe because they just cannot understand what we're talking about. Because it's like me, Guy. If I go into the cafe and I hear someone telling me they've had 8 of these and think it's wonderful, and they just and the experience they've had, what, I don't even know what planet this person lives on,
Yeah.
because
Yeah. I
it's not
agree.
my planet. I just cannot talk to some people. Um, they're just totally alien to me. So I think so many people have got so many traumas in their life, and I think this whole thing that happened 5 years, 4 years ago, has traumatized people so much. They have no morals anymore. They have no boundaries. They they,
Mm,
they really don't know who they are anymore. They have no self awareness. They're totally told what to do, how to do it, when to do it, when not to do it. And I don't know about in England, Guy, but when we had all that happen here, I can never remember in my 63 years of life ever going into a shop and having signs put up everywhere that the way you act, if you act, hostile, or if you upset any of the staff, you will be thrown out. Any form of aggression or violence, you'll be dealt with. That was before they were put in the shops round about when this thing started 5 years ago. I didn't see a lot of people did get very aggressive. A lot of people became totally weird. And
Yes,
I think, maybe that thing here has done something to this up here where
I think
they're
so
not
too.
functioning right.
I was saying yesterday on that I've noticed that since 2020, and I thought it was just me, but I decided to sort of share my thoughts online, and I said that I've noticed now that if someone sends me a message, and I get a lot of messages and I reply to them all, and I probably miss the odd one here and there, and I try to reply to every comment, and I
Thank
probably
you.
miss the odd one of those as well, but I do try to reply. And someone will send me a message asking me for information on something, whether it's something I've researched, something I've posted, or they want details on how to buy a book or whatever it is, and I reply. And I would say that probably one or two out of every 10 people read it and don't reply to it. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's really strange because I've given them everything they asked for and they don't even acknowledge that I've done that. And then a month will go by and they'll start sending me information. They might say, "Oh, what do you think of this? What do you think of that?" And I go back and I think, hold on a moment. The last conversation we had, you asked me for information. I provided it to you. You didn't even acknowledge that I'd done that. And now you
Yes.
want more information on other
Yes.
things. This is where we now stop. I now draw a line here and say, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but for me, a conversation between two people is something that both are taking part in. And if you're only going to send me messages and you're not going to acknowledge my replies, then this isn't a conversation. This is someone just sending someone stuff. And
Yes.
and and I also noticed that, and this is since 2020, and I've also noticed that I can now walk into a shop and sometimes the shop assistant will not even acknowledge that you've entered the building. You don't get eye contact. Their heads down. They don't want eye contact.
Yes.
You can hold a door open for someone, and half the people don't even notice you've done it. You can reach out to an old friend and say, just thought I'd say hello, how are you? You can see they've read the message and they don't reply. And I
Right.
think
Yep.
it's to do with what happened, a combination of whatever was in that lethal
Yes.
cocktail, and
Yes.
also us being kind of put in a position where we were encouraged to no longer socialize, and given rules where we couldn't socialize to sort of break down the, really the need for people to be together. We're supposed to,
Yes.
I think, goes back to us perhaps being almost in tribes and living together in small communities in caves or whatever it was. Um,
Yes.
and I think they've completely destroyed that and they've detached us from each other, and that somebody's time is the only thing they can't get back. They can replace money, they can replace items, but they can never get their time back. And when you give someone your time and it's not appreciated, even if it's just saying thank you for something or saying hello and smiling, if that can't be reciprocated, then that has an impact on us. We think that we feel kind of lesser, like we've been
Yes.
ignored or we're worthless to that person. They can't
Yes.
see us, or whatever we've got to say isn't worth hearing. And they don't realize the damage that that causes other people. And I think that this
Absolutely.
was forced. And I do think that that medical intervention perhaps has done something to change the way a lot of people think.
And I think too that I mean, I don't know if people have looked into the biofield patents at the moment, but they're definitely
Mm,
affecting our biofields.
yeah,
Um, and that's really frightening through these electronic systems.
yeah,
And I think too that over that time period, they had more time to sit in their electronic systems and get more connected and more disconnected with being a
yes.
human. forgetting their manners. I mean, Guy, out of everyone I know, you would have to be the most politest person on social media. You comment to everyone. You acknowledge everybody. And I just look in awe sometimes and see how your manners are impeccable, like you make everyone feel important. And that's something we've lost along the way. We've all lost that sense of, of all of us being able to make the next person feel important, irrespective of, what we've done for the day or whatever. And that takes a lot of time. No one obviously appreciates the amount of time you spend going on comments. It takes up time.
Yeah, yeah, it does.
And
And I
then
know that
replying
mm, it
as
ta-
well.
I know that I miss the odd one, and and it's hard sometimes if you've got a couple hundred people comment on something, and you
Yes.
I might not miss the first one, but I might miss their reply to my comment, and then I feel awful that I've
Yes.
ignored it. And but it's funny because an old friend of mine put a comment on one of my posts yesterday and said how what I'd written about people not respecting other people's time and perhaps not respecting other people like we should, or giving them perhaps the courtesy of a reply or acknowledging them if they say hello or wave or smile. And he said that he's so proud of his children because um, despite everything they've been through, they're both now earning lots of money, and one of them's just put £100,000 down as a deposit on a house, and blah blah blah. And he went on and on and on about how financially successful his children were. And I
Mm,
replied saying, how pleased that I was to hear that his children were doing so well. And I'm proud of my kids. They've both got very good jobs. They earn good money. Um, but I said to him in my reply that the thing I am most proud of isn't what my children do for a living, and it isn't how much money they've got in the bank. It's the people
how
they've
they treat
become.
them.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's who they are, because the rest is dressing.
Yes.
It's putting garnish
Absolutely.
on a nice meal, isn't it? Who cares how much money someone's got or how big their house is? And when I joined the Freemasons, which as most people know that I'm no longer welcome, and I haven't been for a long time now. But when I
Yeah.
joined, they said, when you put that apron on for the first time, it isn't going to change who you are. If you are a bad person, you will become a bad person wearing an apron.
Mm. Yep.
And it's so
Absolutely.
true. It's just garnish. I couldn't care less how much money someone's got, how big their house is, or whether they've bought this new car, how much their sofa cost. Are you a good person or not?
Exactly.
And then I'll
Yep.
take it from there.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? The proudest times I am of my sons, my three sons, is when I go out with them and I see them, how they interact with other people. And
Mm,
that's when I am absolutely the proudest of them, because they are so polite. They are so conscious of other people in their environment. And, and people just radiate to them because they're different now, because they've got manners. I've
yeah.
got three 27-year-old sons that have got triplets that have got beautiful manners, and they respect people, irrespective if someone doesn't respect them. They still give respect back, and makes that person think, oh, okay, well, I need to be a little bit more polite to this person, because they give respect in a way that's quite nicely done, but it gets reciprocated. And
Yeah.
that's when I'm very proud of my sons, because, you know, manners always open doors, and they know that.
Yes. Yes, they do. It's interesting you said you got triplets. I didn't know they were triplets until just now. I didn't
Yes.
know that. And all the things that we know. Does that run in your family?
No, no, it
So it's
doesn't run in.
just you.
IVF. There you go.
Of course. Yeah, you're higher. Well, normally a higher chance of twins, but triplets. I mean, wow, that's
Well,
it's
it's even more unusual, Guy, because one's natural. Can you believe
right.
that? Yes, one's natural. 1 in 900 million chance of being natural, and he's natural. So
Wow.
how that works is 2 eggs. They were going to put 3, and I said, no, I don't want triplets in case they all take. So yeah, so we had 2 eggs, two separate sacs, but there was another one. And when I said to them, how can there possibly be doing another one? Because an egg must have split. They said, no, 3 separate sacks. One must have been there for the party.
Wow. Do they look similar?
No, I've got, well, the two of them do. The one that's natural, Broden, he looks totally different. He's shorter, bulkier, yeah, totally different.
Wow.
So it's just bizarre. Wouldn't have it any other way.
No,
I
no.
love
My boys are chalk and cheese. One of them's nearly 6 foot. The other one's just a little bit taller than me, so he's probably about 5'9", something like that. And
it.
he's slight like I am, and my older son, he's big, ex-rugby player, and
Yeah, yeah,
he's really outgoing. And when he walks
yes,
into a room, you know he's walked in because he's got a big smile and he'll instantly talk to everyone. Where the other one can
yeah,
walk in a room and he'll just sit there and observe and
yes,
decide whether or not he wants to be there and who he can and can't talk to. And he's really spiritual, where the other one will
yeah.
be out tonight having a few beers.
Yeah, yeah,
It,
that's
it,
brilliant. That's my natural one.
funny, isn't
The
it?
other one, yeah. Well, they're three. They're very different. I've got one that does what your son does. He just goes into a room, he observes. The other one walks in and he's the light of the party, and then the other one's an in between. So yeah,
Oh,
it's pretty
yeah.
amazing.
Well, thank you, Paula, for giving me your
You're
time.
welcome, darling.
What time is it there now, by the way?
It is. I think it's nearly 10 o'clock
Oh,
in the
crikey.
evening.
So nearly time for bed.
Not for me. You know, I'm a night owl. Not for me.
Yeah, yeah. I try to go to bed at 10 because I've had it instilled into me by my wife, who's very much into sort of health and our diet
Yes,
and what we consume. And she's been saying to me for years that your body releases its own serotonin, its own antibiotics, anti-inflammatories between 10 o'clock at night and 2 o'clock in the morning,
and she's
only
right.
if you're asleep. And I think, well, I need all the help I can get. Um,
Yeah,
I normally wake up aching. It takes me half an hour to be able to see properly, no spring chicken anymore. And I think, well, if that's what I need to do. But the problem is I am asleep probably by 11 o'clock I'm gone.
yeah,
But
you're
by
gone.
two,
Yeah,
3, 4 o'clock in the morning,
yeah,
I'm awake.
yeah,
So it
yeah,
doesn't, so I'm grateful that I'm asleep during that important part, but I just wish I could sleep longer. And I've tried staying
yes.
up late to see if I then,
Doesn't work.
no, I still wake up by sort of 4 o'clock, really. I'm awake and I just lie
Yeah,
there and I
yeah,
meditate.
cortisol. Yeah, the
Yeah, there's
cortisol's
too
kicked
much.
in. Yeah.
Yeah, way too much of that going on. Anyway, I will
It was
bid you
lovely to talk to you,
farewell.
guys.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. I really appreciate you coming
Welcome.
on, and thank you again for helping me with the book and contributing to
No,
it.
pleasure.
I,
Anytime, Guy.
I hope people
Anytime.
watching this will grab a copy and read if they only read what you've got to say, please read
Well,
Paula's.
you know what? I'm still waiting for my copy. My sister brought me the copy from
I
you.
wasn't going
She's
to
had
tell
some
you
time.
that, but I've been chatting to Sam. I thought that was a surprise, but it's yeah, they're on
No,
their way. They are on their
my
way.
birthday was like 3 weeks ago, and she said to me, "Oh, your birthday present's still not here, Paul. I'm so sorry." I said, "What is it?" She goes, "Oh, the book from Guy." And I went, "Oh, awesome!" And she's like,
Yeah, yeah, it's
right,
yeah. So yeah, I guess if we had have had, if you had have contacted me a little bit sooner, we could have maybe made it for your birthday. But by the
"No,
time
that's
we'd
okay."
sorted it out and
Yeah,
worked out what she wanted and then processed the
yeah,
payment and then I posted them, I thought,
yeah.
oh God, your birthday's gone. But I didn't know you knew that. So anyway, they are on their way. Hopefully they'll be with you soon.
Yeah, that's okay. I look forward to reading them. I know that everyone that has received your books love them here in Australia, guys. So
Oh,
keep up
that's
the good work.
lovely. That's
Yeah,
lovely to hear that. Thank you.
yeah. No,
Thank
they
you.
absolutely love them.
And thank you for making the second book more interesting.
Yeah. Well, let's do the third one.
Yes, yes, I am trying to do that now. If my brain would just stop waking me up and telling me to look at other things. But
Right.
I'm doing two at the moment. I'm doing one on the World's Fairs and Expositions, and the other one is a book of all the posts that I put up each day, a different
Yeah, and they're
conspiracy theory.
fabulous.
Pardon?
Yeah, I love them. I love
Yeah,
them.
it's just
It's fabulous.
different stuff. So it's
Yep.
basically it's called Conspiracy Theories from Atlantis to Tartaria.
Yeah.
And it's just all
Great.
of these posts, but each one's expanded upon. So if Tartaria is your thing, or what's beyond the ice walls, or
Yeah.
or cloning, or did we land on the moon? There's something in there for everyone to
Yeah. No,
consider.
you're
But
doing a
yeah,
great job. I
trying
love
to
them.
get it out there. Thank you.
No,
Have
you're
a
doing a great
wonderful
job,
evening,
guys.
Paula, and
You too.
what's left of it. And thank you so much again for coming on.
You're welcome anytime. Thank you, Guy. Much
Thank
love to
you.
you and your wife.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye for now.
Bye. Bye.